Have you ever stopped to wonder how an invisible web of legal documents follows you from your very first breath to your absolute last? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into Philippine civil registry laws to decode this massive paper trail, and we're going to unpack exactly how the state maps out the human journey. Think about your biggest life moments for a second, and ask yourself just how many of them are actually legally documented by the government. We usually think of our lives as this personal collection of memories, taking your first steps, renting your first apartment, traveling somewhere entirely new. But running completely parallel to your lived experience is another life entirely, a legal life. It's an objective, continuous record maintained by the state, and it captures way more than you might realize. And it begs the question, what happens when that objective record gets your story wrong? Let's start with the purpose of the register, looking specifically at Article 407 of the Civil Code.
So, to really get this, we have to look at the foundational rule. The Civil Register is essentially the ultimate legal mirror. It is the official record of the acts, events, and judicial decrees that concern your civil status. Now, civil status isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It's a very rigid legal framework. It defines your rights, your obligations, and exactly how you relate to society. If an event legally alters that status, the register demands a permanent record of it.
Now you're probably wondering, what specific life events are actually deemed important enough to be legally mandated for this record? Because not every major milestone changes your legal status. Landing your absolute dream job or finally graduating from university might be a massive deal for you personally, but to the civil register, totally irrelevant. So where exactly does the state draw the line? Well, according to Article 408 of the Civil Code, there are exactly 16 specific events and acts that absolutely must be entered into the Civil Register. Just 16. That is the magic number of categories that legally encapsulate the recognizable shifts in your human experience. Let's break this list down a bit to see just how comprehensive it really is. Moving on to our first major category, beginnings and family ties, which deals with origins and filiation. Naturally, the ledger kicks off with births, literally the exact moment you become a legal person. But the law goes way beyond that. It covers adoptions, acknowledgments of natural children, the judicial determination of filiation, and legitimations. It is incredibly strict about mapping true parentage. In fact, it's so strict that we even have special legislation, like Republic Act No. 1122, specifically to rectify simulated births. That ensures your paper trail actually matches biological or legally adopted reality. But hey, the paper trail doesn't just stop at childhood. It rigorously follows us as we grow up, step away from our families of origin, and start forging our own new legal bonds. This brings us to marriages and separations, or the legal side of love, union, and heartbreak. You see, the law doesn't just care about the start of a marriage. It records the entire spectrum of a relationship breaking down. The register mandates the recording of marriages, sure, but also legal separations, annulments, and even judgments declaring marriages void from the very beginning. Why? Because your marital status dictates absolutely critical things like who owns what property and who inherits what. You can't just casually claim your marriage is void in the middle of some unrelated lawsuit just to dodge an obligation. In the legal world, that's called a collateral attack on your personal status, and the law strictly prohibits it. Any change has to be officially decreed by a court and properly recorded here first. So, beyond family and romantic relationships, our very identities and civic standings can totally transform over time. But, as you can probably guess, when our identities shift, the potential for clerical disasters definitely goes up. Let's look at changing identity and status, which tracks the evolving citizen. The register meticulously logs core identity changes, things like naturalization, the loss of citizenship, and the recovery of citizenship. But think about changes of name. What happens if your name was simply misspelled at birth, or maybe your gender was recorded incorrectly? Back in the day, fixing the civil register was a massive headache. You literally needed a full-blown court case under Rule 108 of the Rules of Court just to fix a typo. But thankfully today, laws like Republic Act 9048 and its amendment RA 10772 are real game changers. They allow administrative corrections for typographical errors, or even changes to your first name and gender, right at the local civil registrar. No need to clog up the court system. And this is super important now, because newer laws like Republic Act 11909 ensure the permanent validity of these certificates, meaning getting these entries right from the start is more vital than ever. Finally, the register keeps tabs on your legal capacity. It notes the voluntary emancipation of a minor, which is when a young person legally gains adult capacities, and civil interdiction, which is basically a legal restraint that restricts someone's right to manage their own property.
And then, of course, it mandates the logging of deaths, the definitive end of the paper trail, the final closing of the ledger.
So there you have it. Together, these 16 mandated entries act as this relentless, purely objective paper trail that documents the legal story of your entire life. From Article 407 establishing the whole purpose of the register, right down to the strict administrative rules you have to follow to fix a single misspelled letter under RA 9048. It is an extraordinarily rigid system doing something kind of amazing, translating the messy, unpredictable human experience into orderly, legally binding data.
It kind of makes you step back and wonder, doesn't it? Looking at this incredibly comprehensive ledger, what specific legal legacy are you leaving behind? Because long after our personal memories fade away, these 16 categories of acts, events, and judicial decrees are going to remain permanently on the books. This civil register is literally the ultimate biography of your rights, your relationships, and your identity. So the next time you're signing some official document, just remember, you aren't just filling out paperwork. You're writing the next permanent chapter in the official legal record of you. Thanks for joining me in this explainer. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do.